Keith, it's a pleasure having you on my show. You're a legend in the precious metal space, but please introduce yourself to our audience.
Oh, Mark, well, I'm sure I'm fairly well known with the German audience. We've had shareholders in Germany since the beginning of the company back from 2004, 2005. Even my predecessor company, we had several German investors involved in that company as well. I run two companies, First Majestic Silver. I'm the founder, CEO of that company. It's listed on the New York Stock Exchange as a market cap of over $3 billion US dollars. We have something in the order of 80,000 shareholders worldwide. We have 4 producing mines, 3 mines in Mexico, and 1 recently purchased mine in Nevada. The company that I'm also the chairman of, but not in management, is a company called First Mining Gold. I put the company together back in 2015, 2016. It's a smaller company. It's in a development cycle, so it's a little bit maybe on the boring side for some people's liking. It's not producing. It's going through permitting and exploration on a portfolio of gold projects in Eastern Canada.
Yeah. Okay. So full disclosure, I own both stocks actually, and the mutual fund I'm consulting and advising as well on my recommendation, of course. So everybody knows I really like the stock, and I recommended it a couple of times on my YouTube channel. So let's look in the current economic landscape. It's crazy what's going out there. So do you have thoughts on the central bank madness? You are also familiar with the fourth turning theory. Any thoughts on this? And what do you think about the central banks?
Well, they've backed themselves into the corner, and it's like all financial systems must come to an end. And then you're quoting Neil Howe's book, and the fourth turning that he claims that we're in and have been in for the last decade, and likely won't get out of it until another at least 1 decade, and possibly a little bit longer than that.
Yeah.
And during these periods of time, are the most volatile periods, where wealth destruction will likely occur, and there'll be huge wealth transfers. Also, that'll likely occur, similar to what we saw in 2008, 2009. But I think the wealth transfer that is about to occur is going to be even more dramatic than that. And as far as I'm concerned, you need to have investments in the commodity space, specifically the precious metals space, and I think you need to have real estate holdings as well, and very little debt. And if you don't have debt, you got some precious metals. Regardless of what happens, in my opinion, you're probably going to be okay coming out the other side of whatever this reset looks like. And we're seeing politicians and non-elected, particularly non-elected politicians, which makes it even worse, talking about this whole new reset and so on. So we still don't know what it all means, but what we do know is that major changes are coming.
Yeah, we all feel it, I guess. But we had, since 2011, we had a bear market in the precious metal sector. Actually, we have the perfect surrounding for rising prices. The central banks print money like never before. We have low interest rates. So why is silver only at $28 and gold just above 1,800?
Yeah, it's always the question, right? It's just, silver is such a tiny market, but yet the metal is so critical in so many things that we do as a human race. And, I just think, because of its critical nature, I think it's just more traded by the big banks, the big commercials that need the metal. And I think that trading, is sometimes, curtails the price movement, unfortunately. We saw the CFTC coming out and saying, they were successfully able to tamper the market, because if we weren't able to, the damage that would have been caused, blah, blah, blah. And you're kind of wondering what this guy's actually saying. And then, here's a regulatory group that is somehow managing or monitoring the price of a commodity that trades on their exchange. And some institutions even went as far as saying that these young millennials that were responsible for this big run up in silver to $30 an ounce should not be even allowed to trade in the market, because they're so unsophisticated, they don't know what they're buying. So, these are odd statements from people that should not be saying things like that.
Okay. Keith, I heard you actually talking about the stock markets getting in trouble from Q4 on. Can you elaborate on this and what will happen to mining stocks?
Well, I'm expecting a fairly dramatic drop in the major markets, something similar to what we saw back in 2000, 2001.
Wow.
The leaders of the tech sector appear to be rolling over. Which is still much too early to tell whether this is the beginning of a new down cycle. It's pretty kind of a bold statement to be saying, and I'm not suggesting that we're there, but we could easily see continued printing of money and continued flow of capital into the stock market and continued free money in the form of checks in the mail that we're seeing the European governments and also the United States do, and it's helping to float the system, and we don't know when the government's going to end that, but I suppose this thing can go on for much longer. Are we going to see 5,000 S&P? Are we going to see 35,000 Dow or what? But I don't know. I don't know the answer.
A melt up, yes, a melt up. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And for me, I just want to be positioned for that inevitability.
Sure, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, I'll go. I'm highly invested in inflation, things like oil, like precious metals, like copper. I think that's where we have to be, because I think if we do get this melt up, it's going to take everything with it, including real estate prices. But there's going to be a point where all this is just going to roll over, and if you look back at the period from 2000 2003, the first equities that came out of that were the mining stocks.
Yeah, true.
Gold bottomed, silver bottomed in 2002, and then we went into a 10-year bull market, which was quite an exciting bull market, and I think that's where we're going.
Yeah, I expect the same, actually, because in my new best-selling book, I recommended commodities and especially real assets, because I think this decade will definitely a decade of real assets, especially precious metals and commodities, everything. So I expect a super cycle, a commodity super cycle. You think we will have one? Do you agree with me, or what do you think?
Yeah, it's interesting. This time around is a little bit different, right? We have, and that's why I think it's going to be stronger than the last one. The last time it was a supply issue, and it was definitely a generational kind of commodity super cycle where you saw China and then Asia basically coming to the market, and they were relatively new buyer in the whole scheme of things. And they were building out their economies and just consuming everything there was, and there was a huge demand for them to build manufacturing facilities and really start to supply the planet with all the goods that we've got used to consuming from Asia, China, for a large part. But now with supply constraints put into place, we have another 5 or 6 year period of lack of investment in the resource sector, which we had in the 90s before the last bull market, and exactly in that 5 year period from really about 94 through 2000, where there was very little money invested in the resource sector. And we've had that again. And so now we're getting all this new demand. Yet there's no supply out there because we can't even get lumber from China anymore. Yeah. We can't get the products that we want to get. So you've got the demand, but you don't have the supply. So, and it's going to take a long time to fix that.
Yeah. So what do you think? How long will the super cycle last? Yeah.
Well, these things, resource cycles, can last a decade, and then often they do, and it just really depends on what is driving it. Like if you look at the 2016 move, that scared a lot of people. we're at in January of 2016, I think we're at like $13 silver. And by July or August of 2016, we were at $21 silver. And then First Majestic was up 500% over that six month period. But then after that, it fell off like a cliff, and it stayed low for actually a couple of years again. Yes. So that bull market, call it a bull market if you wish, only lasted 6 months, but it was driven by interest rates. It was driven by a totally different phenomenon that is occurring today. So I don't think this is a blip in the sand. I think we since the end of 2018, early 2019, we've had a nice bid coming into gold, and it's been, and of course it was proven, I think, to be in a bull market when gold broke through 2100 or got close to 2100 in August of 2020, and silver, of course, did what it did and got up to about 30 or a little over. Didn't last long, but nevertheless, it did happen. So I think that is telling us, the signs of the future. Yeah. And we've been, doing a consolidation. The market. There's still a lot of questions out there in the marketplace. We don't know. There's one, I guess, side of the table whereby people are saying we're going to see 2.5%, 3%, 10-year bonds, and that's going to be negative for gold. But that's only if inflation is under 2%. If you have 5 or 6% inflation and 2.5% interest rates, you still got negative rates.
Yeah.
So that would still be supportive for gold. But then of course the other side of the equation is that rates are going lower, and we're going to go into a deflationary period of time. Mm. So I'm more of the side that we're going to go into an inflationary period. Mm. But the verdict is still out, and gold can do good in both periods. But what gold doesn't like is the uncertainty, and that's why we've been trading sideways in gold for a few months now, and silver, unfortunately, despite me pounding the tables and saying silver is not gold, it's a strategic metal and required for everything that we're doing as a human race, and should not be treated the same as gold. Investors still view silver as a poor man's gold.
Yeah, true story. So what do you think? Are we approaching the biggest precious bull market ever?
Well, gold did go from $30 an ounce to $800 an ounce back in the late 70s. That was a pretty good bull market, and silver went from the dollar ranges up to 50. So look, I'm expecting at least a similar type of move. Gold went from this last bull market from 2002 to 2012. Gold went up, I think, 8 times, 250 to 1800, and silver went up 10 times, $5 to $50. So if you use the base of $13 for silver as your low, that's $130 silver, over a 10-year period, of which I think we're probably 3 years into it approximately. And your biggest move is generally at the end of those big cycles. And gold, the same thing. You use 1050 as your base on gold, multiply by 9, you've got $9,000 gold, and away you go. So those are the kinds of prices I'm looking for.
Wow. So why are you especially so bullish on silver?
Well, just because of the industrial demand for it, and it's also a very small market. Sure. You look at, if you look at mine supply, despite the fact that I don't like the data that's, these data collection agencies tend to produce, I think it's quite flawed, but nevertheless, it shows clearly that mine supply has been dropping for 5 consecutive years now. With COVID, of course, it was a big down year, and there's speculation that 2021 may be an up year just because COVID is behind us now, and we did have substantial losses over the last. We peaked out at about 880 million ounces of silver production worldwide in 2015, and we're at 700 and I think the number was 760 million ounces last year, or it could have been 740. So, it's got a bit of a ways to go before it catches up, to its old highs. But there's really no big mines out there. There's really, where's the silver going to come from? Grades are dropping worldwide, and I'm in the silver business, so I know I watch all the other silver companies, and they're all producing less silver than they used to. We're producing less silver than we used to, and we're producing more gold than we used to. So it's making up for our losses on silver, but it's the silver business is a tough business because there's just really no silver mines out there of any magnitude, and we ignore silver. We just think there's an abundance of silver, and I've had many debates with people on this topic. But I like to point to the mining ratio. For every 1 ounce of gold we're mining worldwide as the mining industry, there's only 7 ounces of silver being mined for that 1 ounce of gold. So that's a shocking number when even the scientists think there's 16 to 1 in the Earth's crust. Yeah. But we're not mining 16 to 1. Okay. And the financial ratio is approximately 70 to 1. Yeah, which is So do you expect any silver shortages in the next couple of years? I think there already is, but I think it's being masked by the banks and so on. I think that you look at the SLV, I think it was, who had to change his prospectus, because they just couldn't get the silver, so they actually changed their prospectus to include. It actually mentioned short squeezes and short selling, and the lack of physical silver, the fact that they'd have to go into the markets and buy paper metal, and they might drive prices higher in under certain circumstances if they have to go in and buy excessive amount of paper. It was quite an odd paragraph that they added into their prospectus. So I just and the physical one, the PSLV, I think the last number I saw was 75 million ounces of silver they've added to their fund over the last 12 months. So there's tons of demand, and you can't even get really retail products anymore. There's silver in the picture behind me, which is silver that we sell. We're one of the only, I think, well, actually, we probably are the only mining company in the world that produces our own retail products and sells them on our website. And so we get a pretty good feel for the marketplace, because we're dealing right with the retail investor. We're also deal directly with the mints. Yeah. And we deal directly with the refineries, in order to put all this metal together. So we've got a pretty good feel for this market, and everyone in this market tells me that there's hardly any silver around. The retail guy gets it last, the Sonys and the Teslas and the Panasonics of the world, or Samsung, they get their metal first because they need to produce products, and the guys at the end of the line are generally people like you and me. Yeah. So actually, this is a very good point. So we see we need silver in any technical product, in the smartphone, in the Tesla, everywhere. So why are not more tech companies stocking up silver and buying them as an asset? Yeah, I've said this before over beers that my view is that big techs will end up owning the mines. Oh, okay. Did you already have an offer from Samsung or Apple? We've had discussions with a couple of different groups. Okay. But to me, it just makes so much sense. Sure. Of course. If you're a big consumer like an Apple, why be at the mercy of the market? Why not just own, a couple silver mines, a couple copper mines, gold mine if you need one, and you're a $1 trillion company as it is, it's a rounding error for you to make those investments. And the government would probably love having, Apple own a silver mine versus, First Majestic owning a silver mine. I don't know, just a guess. But So
okay, I'm expecting big news in the future. Good for the stock.
Well, we're not in any direct discussions right now, so I don't think it's going to happen in the future. Human beings tend to act very late in the cycle. So as I said, these cycles tend to last a decade, and then the biggest move is in the last part of that cycle. And I think that's when the Samsungs of the world will start to jump in and buy some of these mining companies.
Okay. So, but we see 70% of the silver demand is coming from the industry. So what will happen if we see a recession or an economic shock or something? What do you expect? And are you prepared for the situation?
Buy the dip.
Yeah, good.
We've seen a lot of corrections, or I've seen a lot of corrections. Yeah. And corrections tend to be quite short. They can be violent, and if you're on the wrong side of them, if you've got margin, if you've got debt, or you just own the wrong things, you could be obviously severely impacted. Yeah. But in the case of what I'm thinking, I think that with the gold and silver sector, the entire commodities complex. And I mean, even corn, grains, energy, and metals. I think that's the place I think you need to be over the next, at least 5 years and possibly longer. Yeah. So whatever happens in the overall economy or overall market, I think those areas will be somewhat protected from any major drop. If you look at the Nasdaq, for example, it hit 5,000 in March of 2000, and then it over the following 3 years, it dropped 80%, and it didn't hit 5,000 again until 2015. So it was 15 years for it to get back up to its previous high. Right? That's a pretty amazing stat. But over that period of time, if you were invested in the commodity sector, you would have done extremely well. Yeah. And that's what I'm looking. That's exactly the kind of thing I'm looking for. But I think it's going to be more. But it's going to be worse. It's going to be more like 29 through 33, where you had huge poverty, you had huge disruptions, high unemployment. Governments are going to be throwing money everywhere, to keep the system afloat in any possible way they can do it. And it's going to, the wealthier will get wealthier and the poor will get poorer, unfortunately.
But it will end in social unrest, or?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or war, perhaps.
That's the fourth turning, and
exactly the winter.
The winter, right? And then, according to Neil Howe, we'll go into the first turning and we'll get into spring and everyone will be happy again. We'll see what that looks like. I'm optimistic. Human race is able to survive through many, many things, and we'll get through this one as well. But I'll try my best not to lose any money during it.
Yeah, definitely. So let's step back a little. What was your reaction once you saw the Reddit guys trying to squeeze the Fiat Majestic silver shorters?
Yeah, look, I was pretty intrigued by it, of course. Quite excited about it. Quite honestly, I didn't particularly like the action on the stock. Sure. The stock went up like 50% over a matter of a couple of days, which it's exciting to watch, and my portfolio obviously went up in value a lot. I made sure that no one within management was in the stock market or in the market, because I didn't want any insiders trading the stock, and nor did I, of course, because I just thought it was one of these very anomalous types of situations that I didn't trust whether it would last or not. And I was right; it didn't last very long. But what it has done is it's brought an entire new set of eyeballs on this industry. Yeah. And because a lot of these younger crowds and millennials who are really behind this kind of Reddit kind of movement, they've been trading the high tech stocks for the last 5 years, and they've been doing okay on it. And but I think a lot of these stocks are rolling over, and I think this group, these new investors, should be looking at the commodity sector, the precious metal sector, and it's great timing for them to start putting some of their capital into this sector, even in whatever percentage they feel comfortable doing, but at least have something in this sector. And it'd be great education for them to learn about this sector. And, so I think it's a good thing. It's going to help protect their wealth, and also probably at the end of the day, it's good for price as well.
Yeah. So Keith, do you have any clue why the First Majestic Silver stock is so heavily shorted? Any idea?
Well, it's not so much anymore.
Yeah, sure.
I think the short position got up to like 50 million shares at one point, which was just a ridiculous amount. I've had these discussions with people, and internal people and external people. And I think it's just because we are the purest silver company in the world out of the majors. The stock does trade an enormous amount of stock. I think I was told just the other day that I think we traded 3 times our entire issued and outstanding shares in Q1.
Yeah.
So, if it's great for an institution, if they want to buy 1 million shares in one day and sell it the next, they can do that without affecting the price in any great degree, because it just trades like, water, basically. It's just an amazing vehicle to trade. So it's become a darling of people that follow this sector. And I think that, there has been a negative view towards gold, because, we have a higher interest rate environment, at least by some, assuming that we're going to get into higher interest rate environment. And some claim that you need to be short gold in an environment like that. And that's why gold has come off its highs. And I don't believe in that trade, mind you, but there are some that do. And if you believe if that gold is going lower, your best beta to that is silver, because for every dollar or every percentage that gold's going to drop, I'm sure silver is going to drop by probably 3%. So just that beta trade, some guys that want to take more risk, will take that short position against silver. And I also think it's used as a hedge as well. You might, you might want to be long copper and short silver. So, you might pick First Majestic as part of that trade. Yeah. So it's a combination of many things.
Yeah. So mining stocks are not very popular in Germany. The most people in Germany prefer to invest in physical silver and gold. So why invest in mining stocks? What's the case for it?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily agree with you on that. Back in 2006, because I'm pretty well known in Germany, and then we actually had 25% of the company, First Majestic, owned in German-speaking countries: Austria, Switzerland, and Germany itself. So that's pretty amazing.
Okay.
And to this day, we have about 10% of the company owned in those 3 countries. And also my other company, First Mining Gold, is quite well known and quite well owned as well throughout Germany. So, but Germany has always been a very much a physical market, anyways. You go to some of the mining shows or the conferences in Germany, and you've got all the dealers there, selling metal, and you've got all the the locals, coming in with cash, buying up all the silver and gold, and it's just like it's normal course for them. It's just that's what the Germans do, and it goes back to the Reinhardt case.
Sure.
Where this is interbred in their blood, and so so the Germans are quite a unique breed, or no, I shouldn't say breed, but quite a unique investor. Quite different than most around the world. If you go to the United States, for example, and try to sell silver like we do at the conferences, similar to what we do in Germany, 100% of those transactions will be in credit cards. And in Germany, 100% of transactions would be in cash. So,
Germans love their cash.
They do, and they love their metal. They love their silver and gold, and
Yeah, but mining stocks are usually a leverage of the on the commodity price. So actually, if you buy a mining stock and gold goes up 2x and silver goes up 5x, the mining stocks just explode exponential. So yeah, but most people don't know that. And mining stocks are very cyclical and very volatile. So that's why more retail investors, at least in Germany, seem to be afraid of investing in them. What are your 3 tips for people investing into mining companies?
Well, a good mining company should go up 2 to 3 times the metal itself. On a percentage basis.
Okay.
You know, and there'll be others that perform better than that. First Majestic, you know, has throughout its 90, because we've been in business for now just about coming on to 19 years. We've had a few pretty impressive moves where we've seen, you know, the stock up, you know, 300, 400, 500, 700%, you know, over a period of, you know, a year or a little bit longer, you know, when we've had these big moves in the metal price. And then that's why you own the mining stocks, but it's painful on the other side, you know, like when you know silver topped out in April 2011, and you know, for that next 4 years, you know, you didn't want to own a mining stock because they dropped so badly. So you can get hurt when the metals are going down, but if you time your investments well enough, you can do quite well on the upside. The thing that investors need to focus on or remember, though, is that the mining sector is spread all over the place. Not one mining company is the same.
Yeah.
You know, one gold company, they could have the best story, you know, and another mining company, you know, another gold mining company, you know, could have the best story, and you go, geez, which one am I going to invest in? Well, first thing you do is you look at the management team. You know, what has this management team done in the past? You know, have they created wealth in the past? You know, have they, you know, made millionaires in the past? You know, have businesses they put together and they've been taken out, or you know, what are those businesses doing today if that management team is no longer part of that other company? Like in my case, First Quantum Minerals, you know, I put together in '92, and put together the team and the assets, and that company is super well respected. One of the best copper companies on the planet. Haven't been there for a long time, but I put it together and put First Majestic together with a team of people and created, you know, enormous amount of wealth. And I hope to do the same with First Mining Gold. But you know, mining companies take time. You know, they're long cycle, very cyclical. You need to, as a management team, you need to raise money at the right times, and because mining is extremely capital intensive, so you need to have access to the public markets, of which a lot of mining executives do not. So they get into the bear market cycle and they can't raise a penny, and next thing you know, their stock is, you know, 5 cents and you know, almost bankrupt. So management teams are key, and also look at jurisdiction. You know, where's the property that this company claims is a good property? You know, lots of places on the planet I simply wouldn't invest. I wouldn't invest in China. I wouldn't invest in Russia. I wouldn't invest in Venezuela, Cuba, California, you know, Oregon, Washington.
All socialist countries.
Yeah, you know, British Columbia, I can't even stand. You know,
all communists.
You know, so you know, you've got to be very careful where your property is, because if you just, you know, if you develop ounces in the ground, you can't take those ounces out of the country and just plop it in a different jurisdiction. You're stuck. You're stuck for the next 50 years. Yeah. So that government, you better have some assurances that that government is going to stay stable for, you know, a good reasonable amount of time. Yeah. And even Mexico's looking more challenging these days. And
exactly, you know, my next question. You had some issues with Mexico. How is it going?
Yeah, it's tough, you know, and you know, all these governments are going more socialist. They're going anti-business. They're going anti-foreign investment. You know, look at Argentina and Peru and Bolivia and Chile now, and it's shocking. You know, country after country, they just don't seem to really be that thrilled about having foreign investment. The benefit that mining brings to these communities in these countries are just, there's no other industry that does what mining does. We create, long-term sustainable jobs, and we create careers. We create education. We build schools, build roads, build infrastructure, roads, internet, water. We build everything, and we build communities, and I love doing it. It's our responsibility, of course, but and we're paying huge taxes at the same time. So it's a very cash intensive business, and it's the only real business that creates the benefit that I think anyways. A Levi's factory can just pick up and go anytime it wants to. The only thing they have to worry about is how cheap is the labor force, and they'll tend just to move the factory to the labor force. A mine doesn't have that benefit.
Yeah. Is this experience you made in Mexico responsible that you diversified your portfolio and invested in Nevada?
Well, it's I remember when I was on the board of First Quantum, and a very African centric portfolio, and and at the time there was people saying, because Africa wasn't that well understood, particularly in the North American financial markets. It was very understood in Europe, because Europeans have been financing Africa for long before the North Americans started doing it. So that's why all the money that was raised in the early days mostly came out of Germany, because they understood it. But over time, it's become more challenging just because the political nature. And I really got a little bit off track. Sorry, just you can ask the question again.
So I was already the next question. Wait a second, what was it? Exactly. Is this why you diversified your portfolio, that you invested in Nevada because of the experience you made in Mexico? Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. I started thinking about something else. I distracted myself right in the middle of me saying what I was saying.
I know that.
So yeah, there's a point in time. I was going to talk a longer story, but I'll just end it just with every business goes through a point in its cycle where it has to step out and grow. And we reached a point in Mexico that we know the environment extremely well. We know what assets are available. We know what assets we could buy. Obviously, it takes two to tango, but we do have several targets in Mexico. But we just felt that it was right for us. And has the political environment in Mexico affected our decision? Yeah, of course it has.
Okay.
Mexico is much more difficult an environment it was 15 years ago. Security is deteriorating. There's actually was more deaths in Mexico in 1920 than there was at the peak of the administration two administrations ago, which was at that time blamed as the one of the worst administrations for the amount of deaths that were going on in the country. So we've now surpassed that high number with this current administration. So yeah, it's really tough. And with the tax dispute that we're having with the Mexican government as well, it's not adding to it's not helping our decision to stay in Mexico.
Understand. Yeah. So is First Majestic currently holding back any silver to sell and waiting for later for higher prices?
Well, we're the ones that started that. It was nice to see.
That's what I'm
asking. It was nice to see another company do that this last quarter. Good on Brad Cook. We may do it again, but it just depends. I like doing it because because I'm expecting to see a major change in price, so I could really get some leverage, from holding on to it, and selling it again in the future. if we had a bigger balance sheet and maybe with a little bit more gold being produced and becoming a little bit more revenue coming in the door from gold, we could probably afford not to sell all our silver. But it is very much a timing issue. And I did it, the last time I did it was in March of 2020 when, silver dropped down to $12 or $13, which was, I was no hope in hell going to be selling silver at those ridiculous prices. Yeah. So I just, it was just so logical for me. So we held back 1.1 million ounces, I think it was at that point. And we'll do it again likely. I just don't know when timing is.
Yeah, sure. So do you invest in any other mining stocks besides your own ones, of course?
Me personally?
Yeah.
Oh, well, of course.
What's your favorite one? Give us a...
Yeah, well, I've been in this business for a long time, so I'm always investing in mining stocks. My portfolio is full of interesting mining stocks. Some I wouldn't even talk about because they're disasters, and we all have our portfolio of stocks that don't seem to ever want to do anything. The only two I would, of course, everyone knows First Mining Gold. The problem with First Mining Gold is it's going through permitting, and it's the most boring stage of a company. Yeah. And you just have to wait there for the government to say yes or no. And the company is going to be they will do some drilling as well, hopefully get some excitement going. But anyways, other companies that I like, Silver One, people have heard me talk about Silver One a few times. I'm a big shareholder of that company, and continue to be, and I love the area. It's in Nevada as well. It's a silver development project. Greg Crow's doing a fantastic job running that company. He's a pretty conservative guy, but he's doing a fantastic job. And the other company that I would point out would be a company called Snowline Gold, company that I helped go public. It's only been trading for, I think, about a month now, maybe. 5 weeks, something like that. And this trading symbol is Sam George Dog, SGD. Trades around 60 cents. And it's got a pretty interesting gold portfolio in Yukon. So I love the jurisdiction. Super mining friendly area, big land package, which I like as well. High grade gold samples on surface, which I also like. Cool. And the management team, we've got Paul Matisek, who's a well-known guy, involved. We've got Quinton Henning, another fellow involved. We've got Chris Hart, who may not be so much known by the public markets, but he's known very well in the technical geological area, the Yukon and British Columbia. He's the chairman. Yeah. And we've got Nick Matisek, who's Paul's son, on as CEO, which is pretty interesting. And some other people as well involved in the business that are all pretty good people. And I'm a significant shareholder. And they'll be drilling this summer, first drill rigs on the property this summer. We're hoping to see some early results. We don't know, of course, it's Mother Nature, but it's got all the it looks like it's kind of, according to Quinton Henning, he's the expert. He thinks it's Nevada style, Carlin style type system in the Yukon, and this is an area of the Yukon that has not been really previously explored by any real modern techniques. So that's the kind of thing I love to invest in. Okay, so are you bullish on any other commodities beside precious metals? Copper is one of my favorite metals. I think you have to have copper in your portfolio. Cool. It's hard to get good copper companies. You see First Quantum was trading at less than $10 a year ago. It's over 30. So there's some juniors out there that I actually was I was sold a little bit on this run, because copper had such a big run, and I was up 500% on one of my juniors, so I had to liquidate some of it just for to be prudent, and get a little bit of money off the table. But I'm always looking for copper investments. Okay, and do you believe the precious metal sector is manipulated? I think everything's manipulated. Okay. Yeah, I think that the exchange, the what they call the stabilization fund, whatever, I forget what they call themselves, but it's apparently one of the largest trading floors, or some people have said is the largest trading floor in the world. Run by the Federal Reserve, and they trade everything.
Okay.
So why they do that, why they trade that stuff, I don't know why governments are allowed to be involved in markets. Somewhere along the line, I think they maybe thought that they have permission to do such things. If I was high enough up in the system, I would not allow governments to be in the markets. I don't think government should be in markets. I think that markets should be completely driven by proper supply-demand fundamentals and so on. But governments today want to flatten out everything, the economic cycle and everything else, because they think that's good for the planet, to eliminate the business cycle.
This would be so wild in the future. It's so crazy. Everything. It's crazy.
Yeah. What they're building, I think, is an incredible disaster about to occur. But I don't know.
Yeah, it's a disaster. It will be a disaster, and there will be books be written about it. It's horrific, just horrific. And this was a question from a viewer actually. What do you think? JP Morgan, they own more than 900 million ounces of silver. So what do you think about that? What's your take on this?
I read the stuff. I have a hard time believing it.
Okay.
Because I work for the banks, right? I was in the trading equity area within the banking system in Canada. And this is in the 80s, from 84 through 89. And, I know the banks are different today, and maybe my experience was not necessarily accurate compared to the experiences today. But what I know from the banks back then is they can't stand being principal. They're in the business of clipping, and they just want to get their little cut of whatever business that they could get. So I'm not disputing the fact that JP Morgan has been in the market buying silver. Ted Butler's quite clear on that. He monitors this quite clearly. But my suggestion or my belief would be that they're acting on behalf of another buyer.
Okay.
Or a series of buyers.
The Fed.
It could be very much so. There's a lot of people that say that, and that could be true. It could be the big commercials. It could be Tesla. It could be Sony.
For Basel III,
You never know. Yeah, and we do know. We know the Russians and the Chinese do have silver in their reserves. They don't report it. They only report their gold reserves. But occasionally there was a famous photograph that was taken on Putin's visit to, I guess, where the heck they keep their gold and silver. I don't forget the name of the vault he went, but there's a picture of him in the front of the vault is where all the gold is, and there was quite a lot of it. But if you're observant, you look in the very back of that photograph, all those were pallets of silver, quite a lot of them. So they definitely hold silver. So who knows who the buyer is, but that's my opinion.
Yeah. Last two questions from the guys from Twitter. One asked, and what do you think? What will be the gold-silver ratio targets in the future? You already said it's right now 70-1. So what do you expect for the future? Will it be 16-1 or 30-1 or 50-1?
Well, everything does overshoot.
Yeah.
Right. So if the market actually did what it should do, and this would require that the government step aside, and maybe the system breaks, or maybe something happens where a decision is made for in fact the governments to stop manipulating or getting out of these markets. Maybe that's a fantasy or not, but to see an overshoot where it would require the ratio to drop below the mining ratio of 7-1. So would we see a 1-to-1 silver gold ratio? Ted Butler has suggested that's possible. Now, I don't know if that's possible or not, but I would at least at a minimum would suggest a 15 to 20 is reachable, during a proper bull market, over the next 5 years. And at that type of ratio, you're looking at triple digits silver, of course.
Yeah, that's my price target as well, actually, in this decade. So last question on the digital gold. So any thoughts on Bitcoin?
Yeah, look, I missed the boat on it, and
Not too late.
Yeah, I know.
Still early.
But, I don't, I don't chase stuff. Is how I invest. I invest in things when people don't want them, and I sell things when people want them. So and that's how I trade my portfolio. Not with my core positions, of course. My First Majestic and my First Mining positions, I can't trade like that because I'm an insider, and those are my core positions, which I can't trade around. But my passive investments that I make, I always scale my orders in. So if I want to buy, let's say, 100,000 shares of a stock, I'll watch that stock for 2-3 months, and I'll just get a feel for it, and then I'll start to scale in an order, over a period of a couple of months, and in that way I get a reasonable average that I think is reasonable. And then when I'm up, 300, 400, 500%, you might have to wait a couple of years for that to occur. Then I'll start scaling out the stock. And generally, by the time the stock is at 500%, I'm generally out of that position, all 100%. And that's just the way I always am. And I know the stock that I did that with just recently, and the stock is, I think my last sales were $6 on it, and the stock on Friday was at just under $11. So, but I don't worry about things. I'm not trying to get the high.
Yeah, but you think
I'm not trying.
Yeah. Sorry.
And I'm not trying to get the low either, because no, it's impossible to get the low. It's impossible to get the high. I have my rules of investing, and I stick to those rules. And Bitcoin would not fit into that investment strategy.
You think Bitcoin is interesting? Is an interesting new asset?
I don't know. I just think governments are going to shut it down. I think that, quite honestly, this what's the guy's name who invented it?
Satoshi Nakamoto.
Right. Yeah. I think that's just a nickname for the Federal Reserve.
Okay. Interesting. I have to do some research on that.
I think the U.S. government invented it to test it out, to see, how they could manage a cryptocurrency in the future, and how the European governments can design or use cryptocurrencies. And I think at some point in the future, they're going to just outlaw Bitcoin and introduce their own cryptocurrencies.
They will. They definitely will. That's for sure. So I've got the last question for you. It's beside silver or mining stocks. What is for Keith? What is for you the meaning of life beside work and everything else?
It's I like creating wealth, and I like creating jobs.
Cool.
And that's because I've done fairly well, and it's not like I need to work. I'm 61 now, and
wow, what's your secret?
My German heritage.
Oh yeah, where are they from in Germany? Do you have any idea?
Well, southern Germany. My family. I'm third generation German. So
okay. I'm from southern Germany. Where about? A city?
Yeah, in Bavaria somewhere.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, unfortunately, World War II destroyed all the records, so it's kind of hard to figure it out. But one of these days, I've had more time. What's that?
Do you speak any German?
Just the small stuff. When I'm there, right?
Here, please.
Yeah. Dankeschön.
Oh, very good, very good. Okay. The next interview we do, Keith, is in German, okay?
Well, I've got to get my German lessons. I've always wanted to take German lessons, and it's on my bucket list of things to do. I just I have to get around to doing it. But yeah, it gives me a real kick when I drive through these small towns, where when we weren't there before we arrived, they were basically ghost towns of, there's generally not even a general store, generally not water, often not even electricity. The water's, driven in the diesel generators, for electricity and so on. And, we come in there with, fairly sizable investments, and all of a sudden, within a couple of years, a town has got 3,000 or 4,000 people living in it. You've got a senior school and elementary school, paved roads, 3 general stores, a little movie theater, and you've got all the kids running around with school uniforms on. We've got buses taking the school kids to school from the outlying towns which are feeding the mines. We just see the impact that we're making, and this impact lasts for a generation. And I drive through these towns, and I don't even know if some of these people know who I am, but I am in a corporate truck, and I am a white guy, so I guess they can figure out I'm not from the area. But and then some of them smile at me, some of them wave at me, but I could see the happiness that we brought to this area that was previously impoverished, and that's what really turns me on.
Yeah, you created something, definitely amazing. So Keith, was great having you. Thanks for sharing your wisdom with us, and I hope to talk to you soon again.
Well, it's great chat, Mark. It was our first time, and let's make sure we do this again.
Definitely. Thanks. Take care. Bye.
Okay, you too.